This is Shed from Shed All Over the Page, and today's going to be kind of a hodgepodge video of some projects I've got going up here. And it's really done for the guys and gals at City Marietta we're having problems with. I just want to let them know I'm not dragging butt on this thing. I've just got a lot of stuff going on. So, kind of like my daily stuff. Hello, ladies. That's a Amber Star Sex Link hen, and these are Rhode Island Reds, and they are really phenomenal layers. But I collect eggs, which we are currently having a really hard time selling. And since it's a little bit warmer today, I'll collect early. You can see I have 24 egg layers, one rooster. His name's Goober, but Goober's a pain. Most of my roosters over the years, I could actually get them where they'd just come find me when I'd walk in and hop up my lap. You could pet them and they'd hop back down. Goober's kind of a butthead, or a goober, I guess you would call him. So we gather eggs every day, keep feeders going. But let me set this up here for a minute. So I'm going to make a little montage of videos today, kind of showing the projects I'm on, because I feel there's people at the city that's waiting on me to act, and we're getting there. We're going to be filing something here in the next couple of months at the city, and then we'll move on as necessary from there. But I just want to let everybody know I'm not per se dragging ass, to be blunt. So this will be a little hodgepodge today, one after the other. Okay, after gather eggs, I bring them in and I wash them. We wash and refrigerate our eggs. We believe it's a safer setup than just letting them like sit out on the counter. I found a refrigerator on the side of the road, and you have to laugh. You know, that's I've said it before on another video. That's a lottery, because if it has a sign on it that says it works in this area, there's probably about a 90% chance that it's not going to work, and they just want it hauled off for free. But I happened to, where it was at the end of the driveway, I happened to know the person that lived on that road, so I called him, and the guy goes, "Yeah, it's one of mine." He goes, "There's nothing wrong with it." He goes, "Except one of the trays was broken." And he goes, "So it was in a rental unit or something?" So we got it here. I took it, the backside off, cleaned everything out. The fan was dirty, vacuumed everything up good, cleaned the inside with bleach, and it works like a charm. So, but as you can see, we have a plethora of eggs, and I've got more, and we get 21 to generally 23 a day out of 24 hens. One of them doesn't lay every day, almost. Every now and then I get 24 out of 24, but it's pretty rare. Most of the time I get 22, 23, which isn't bad, and they're about to go into a molt, so that'll probably slow down. But that being said, just another little task on the farm up here. Yeah, I mean, it's something I chose to do. The reality is, if things went bad with a rooster and hens, you've got a food supply. Because I can actually gather, one of the hens will always go broody, which means she'll sit on the eggs. And I have one that kind of like to do that. That's why you gather eggs kind of early. It breaks them of that habit. But I could get a hen that would go broody, set up a broody nest, and just she could just hatch my eggs. And then you've got a food supply. But, so, like I said, it's going to be kind of a montage. This is kind of just a little more of the projects that I've got going on up here. That's a greenhouse. You can see that I've got the post driven in the ground. And basically all these posts got, except for just a couple that were destroyed when I pulled them out. I had to take a pressure washer and blow the mud out of them where they were driven in the first time. So what I purchased was a 30-foot wide, 72-foot long greenhouse up in Pineville, Kentucky. And it was erected. So I had to go up there and take it down, which means climb a step ladder like a 12-foot step ladder, like a lot of times to back out a boatload of screws and stuff. But that's one of the projects we're kind of trying to do here, because we have a farm that we're trying to develop. And I already had over here, I had a spigot, hydrant, water valve, whatever you want to call it, on this side of the road. But that's the parts of it. Then there's some wood parts that they're in bad shape, so I'll replace those, put this up. Came with two 550-gallon tanks so that you can catch rainwater. And so I've got to erect this. I got a buddy of mine that's in the same hiking club, and he actually the guy that started Cumberland Gap Trail Alliance, and he said he'd help me set the arches because it's not that hard to set them. You know, it's just kind of I took them apart in pieces, so I would take out the spread apart the middle section and take it out, and just that's how I ended up doing it. So anyhow, that's another project, just to say that things that I would like to do that kind of just keep getting put on back burners because of everything else that's going on. That's a 1951 Massey Harris pony. So that's the precursor to Massey Ferguson. It went from Massey Harris to Massey Harris Ferguson. Then they dropped the Massey and it just became Massey Ferguson. So it's got a good motor in it, but it needs to be new tires and paint. I'm sure they're original. It was actually purchased from Ward Tractor out on Dallas Highway very, very long time ago. So that's one of the things I'd like to do. I've got other projects inside the shop I'm working on. But, and like I said, I'm just not screwing around, guys. I'm trying to do it, but I have projects to work on here too. I've got too many things in the shop. When I built the shop, I didn't think I would ever fill that shop up, but it's amazing how quick you can accumulate stuff, as they would say. And so I get a lot of water that pushes out of that hill that comes down to my place. That's just how it works. And so I've just finished. I've got to do a little more dressing right here, but put a drain line in that will catch the water as it comes down through here and goes out. And you can see the puddle over there. We had about probably 1.5 inches of rain a couple days ago. And this property goes into a freeze and thaw cycle, which is kind of interesting. It's something really never dealt with in Georgia, but here it does. So what happens, it'll get so cold here, and then it just doesn't warm up that much during the day that the first couple of inches will thaw out, but underneath it's frozen, and so it can't drain through. So it'll hold water and hold water. And as we get warmer weather, yeah, I mean, I think today's supposed to be in 70s. It was around 34, 35 degrees this morning. Yesterday morning it was 26. They're predicting snow maybe on Sunday, kid you not. So this is going to be a boat bay. I made some, basically they're forms to be able to form these up out of 1x4s that all screwed together with the Craig's jig to make, so I could pour these columns. And then it's just going to have 6x6s that come up, and I might close it in it later on, but I've got a boat in there. I want to get the boat out of the shop and into here. If you look over there, you can see that we're green. Most farmers are. So what are we using over there? That's right, wind and geothermal. So we're using the sun and the wind to dry out clothes the old school way. So one of the other projects that's going on here. More going. Speaking of projects, this one's kind of wrapping up. Started in the summer. I rented a mini excavator. As you can see where the foam board is, the screen board, that's where that retaining wall stopped. And we should have came out further, didn't. So ended up having to pay quite a bit more the second go round. But the problem was all this dirt kept falling off, and it was covering up the drain line pipes for the house. If you look down there, you see that white pipe. There's a matching one over here on this side too. And so poured the footings. I poured the footings, dug them out, put the rebar in, plastic, everything, and waited on the guy that actually did our brickwork, who did a great job on the brickwork, waited on him. And unfortunately, there was a younger guy and another younger guy that came out here and did the block work in November. And November was brutally cold here. It was colder in November than it was in December. I think it snowed 3 times in November. But anyhow, so using that Farmall 60A I backfilled all this. So I've got a tremendous amount of shovel time in here relaying the drain pipes. And you can tell there's still a lot of rock in here to pull out, but I've got everything backfilled. And I'm just kind of letting it rain on it a couple times and settle. And then I'll rake out the rocks best I can. And then we'll bring in some more like topsoil and cover it out. Because you can see, if I can get through here and not fall on my face. I get a lot of water, and it's coming out from just literally the ground here where it's dug out. There's we hit a spring in the one corner of the house when we built it. Just how it is. I get no water in my basement. We did a good enough prep on it. We get no water in the basement, and none, which is good. We've been here in the house now since 2018, so that's okay. But it works its way out through the gravel and everything else, because to give you an example, this area in here, it's got a couple of feet of gravel that's even over the drain line. So if the drain line was the trap or a clog up, it'll still flow through the gravel. Water's going to find the path of least resistance. So I ended up putting the drain pipe down, gravel down, fabric down, then backfilled on top of that. So, and down the road, because it's got footings and everything else in here, that could actually be I think it's right at 14 foot wide, so it would be a good room. It's 44, about 44 feet long, something like that. So I could put a big room there if I chose to. Don't think we'll do it in our lifetime. Just don't have the need. So, but kind of just show, wife's a planter. We did the gravel work back in here. She's got a nice area of roses that come through here. Japanese beetles here are insane. They even eat knockout roses. So we have a problem with Japanese beetles. And what I realize is how much cleaner the environment is here. Where I lived in Georgia, you just didn't even see Japanese beetles anymore. And it's because everybody on every corner is spraying Roundup or, herbicides, pesticides, the whole 9 yards. And what happens, it's a little more toxic when you get down to it. This area's not that way, which it's nice. So, all right, another task. Another project, it's raised beds that me and my wife actually built these together. Should we call her the she shed? Anyhow, so this is a brown type of gravel that's in here. Most everything on place is a limestone. So I go to a quarry that's in Greenville, Tennessee, which is about a 3-hour round trip. And we came in here last year and took time. I took an edger and dug down, and we put this edging in, and I was talking about the freeze thaw cycle, and it just pushed all the edging out. It didn't even last a year. We'd try hammering it, and it just kept coming up. It was a pain. So I actually went over the other day. There's a little trailer behind, call that Black Betty. There's a little trailer in there. It's a tandem axle. It's got 5,000 pounds of that gravel in there, so what we'll do is we'll come out here and we'll spray all this with Roundup, kill it back, and we're going to put plastic down, pull up all this edging, and plastic down in the gravel. I'd actually like to take the tiller and work it through, but that'll kind of be up to she shed to see if she wants to. She says she doesn't. So might get some sand. I've got some sand left over from the retaining walls that we did, and you could put it in here to level things out. So that's a project. And Give you another idea where we backfilled over here around the retaining walls. And you can see the little stacks of firewood that we moved out of the way so I could get the tractor in and out. But right in this area here, we're going to build a firewood storage system that I've got a wood splitter, so we can put the wood splitter in there and clean that up, which will be pretty cool. So right now we've got just some old metal roofing that we put over it, and the wind constantly just flips that stuff off, and then it gets rained on. So the wood that you've been trying to dry out ends up becoming a mess. So another project. This is what a difference a day makes. I think it finally stopped snowing. Geyser. That's my brownstone gravel for the project out there. But it was 53 this morning at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I think it's down to about 34 now. Snow's finally backed off, I think, for the day. We'll probably get some flurries coming back and forth and through, but had it been a cold day after day after day, this would have accumulated a lot more. So walking down the mailbox, get the mail. Like I said, I'm kind of wrapping this thing up. I want to correct one of my statements. I said geothermal earlier, talking about the clothesline. It's not geothermal. If we took our clothes and buried them on the ground, it'd be a geothermal. But it was solar and wind. And on the Massey Harris, they actually dropped the Harris. So it went from Massey Harris to Massey Harris Ferguson. Then they dropped the Harris, and it became a Massey Ferguson. And that's the modern day tractor that's out there today. That one over there happens to be a Massey Harris. Had a long talk today with a person from the state, and we discussed a lot of what was going on with the city. And just to kind of clarify, we're actually both under a 218 agreement, under what's called, I believe, if I understood it correctly, a 210 agreement. And 210s are mandatory. And we're out from under 218 agreement. So when we came out from under Social Security, we came out from under a 218 agreement. Then later on, they came back under a 210 agreement and said, nope, everybody's taking Medicare. And that's how come people ended up under Medicare. And then later the city came back and had a modified 218 agreement where they tried to get groups like us that didn't pay Medicare to have to start taking Medicare. And that's one of the rubs right there. And again, like I've said, Medicare is just a vendor, and that's the way it needs to be looked at. But it's not something that the Medicare exempt group like us has to take. We don't. And the rub comes in on, Medicare Part A, Part B, A's free. So we're still trying to get some information. I've got more open records requests to file, and I'm unsure the city's going to give that information out. We'd end up getting it for court, but whether they'll provide it to me for some of the early stage hearings, I don't know, but down the road we'll be able to get it for that. So just kind of closing out. Again, wanting to let everybody know I'm not dragging around. It's just a time-consuming process to get all the stuff we need. So, shed off the page.